You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Justin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is episode 89, The Best and Worst of Gems, featuring DYA.
We have been planning this show for months, and we are finally reaping the benefits, reaping the harvest, if you will, of our good buddy DYA. He's a chip tuner. He's a video game music composer. He is a host of the Genesis GEMS podcast. He is a VGM aficionado and all-around way cool dude. Thanks so much, Aaron Hickman, for being on our show.
Yeah, I don't feel worthy of that intro, but most of those things are true. And so I appreciate you having me here, and I'm a big fan of the show. And of course, Mike and I go way back.
We do.
I know I've written some music for your YouTube channel.
You did, yeah.
Oh.
He did a cover of the Kirby Green song. He did a piano cover for the Kirby's Adventure review I did.
Yeah, we did that, and I think there was a Bad Dudes episode you did, or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I think you did the remix for that too, right?
Yeah, I did a remix of that.
So Aaron was on our show, Pixel Tunes Radio, my former podcast. Ed and I had him on for episode 22, which was Unreleased Gems, where we talked about unreleased game music. And Aaron brought the thunder on that episode. So we wanted to, I've been wanting to get him on the show on XVGM for like so long, and just like I never found a specific topic that I was like, you know what, like this would be perfect for Aaron Hickman until we started talking about GEMS Driver, and I was like, oh snap, we gotta ask DYA. So we did, and here he is in all his naked glory.
I promise I'm wearing clothes. I had
Yes.
a video on before we started recording.
Can confirm.
And
can
as
confirm.
soon as the video
Fully
turned
clothed.
off,
Woo! The chips may fly.
yes. So tell everybody, I know I kind of give you a brief introduction, but tell everybody what you do, what it is that you do, why you're here, not just on this planet, but like just VGM
Yes.
related.
VGM related. I've been a longtime fan of video game music, since, maybe most of the listeners of this show, since I was in diapers, playing video games and listening to music. And then I've been a musician, learning piano and guitar, but then really appreciating video game music enough to want to make it myself. And then picking things up somewhere in the early 2000s, I learned how to make NES music, and there were other tracker things like Amiga trackers and things that I was dabbling in. Fast forward another 5-10 years, I had some more time on my hand, and I realized, I want to keep exploring this. And I got into the podcast game also, and I was writing chiptune music for other people's shows and things like that. And I realized, hey, I think I'm good enough to where I can write music for video games. I picked up the Sega Genesis sound chip. I was always a fan of Sega Genesis growing up. And so I've written plenty of Sega Genesis music to the point where I feel like I can adequately talk about the chip and the many intricacies and things that make it unique from, say, the Super Nintendo and other 16-bit consoles. But yeah, the podcasting journey itself has also taken me many different places, like getting to meet Mike and Ed back in the PTR days. And then I've been co-hosting Genesis Gems for almost 10 years, which is a game-by-game Sega Genesis podcast. But the main thing about me, of course, that I like to highlight is that I write music for video games. I am a video game composer who focuses primarily on the old school sounds using the hardware limitations of those various sound chips like Sega Genesis and NES, TurboGrafx 16. I just did a game last year called Ninja Carnage, which is a Commodore 64 game that you can check out if you want to check that game out. Did the soundtrack for that, and I've worked on a few other soundtracks here and there for games that are on like Steam and one on PS4. So that's kind of my pedigree.
Your most recent chiptune album is Fall Damage, right?
Yes.
Which is a collection of like singles and covers and stuff like that.
Yes, and it has a bunch of Sega Genesis music on it. It has a giant mix of Sega Genesis, NES, TurboGrafx 16, like I said, and then other random chips, Sega Master System, Commodore 64, and things like that.
Cool. Awesome. It's wonderful to have you on the show to talk about our little Genesis, our Sega Genesis that could, the GEMS Driver specifically. Before we get into the GEMS Driver, what it is, let's first talk briefly about the track that we came in on. What'd you pick for your intro, Aaron?
Ooh, this track kind of blew me away when I first found it. So this is a track by Andy Armour, who's done a few soundtracks on the Sega Genesis, and it's the main theme tune called Season Tunes, and it's for the game Primetime NFL starring Deion Sanders, and this was, I think, the 95 season or so, 95 to 96.
Right.
And it's American football, right? It's got to have an epic soundtrack. It's got the ESPN license. It's made by Sega Sports. This music is just so epic. And normally with Gems, I feel like things sound kind of flat.
Twarpy.
In a lot of cases. yeah, very twangy, twarpy, very basic sounds. But when I heard this, I was just kind of blown away by the fullness of the sawtooth bass and the instrumentation, actually hearing like the 8-bit PSG kind of backing the sound, which a lot of Gems composers never used.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was really surprising to hear that kind of metric modulation, like there's kind of a ping pong 8-bit sound in the background, and it grabbed me. The game itself is not going to blow you away or anything. It's another football game of many on the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes toe-to-toe with the Maddens on that system. I played a bit of it. I think the coolest thing is that it actually does have taunts from Deion Sanders in it, and they did sample his voice.
Oh, that's
and
neat.
I also, yeah, so that's probably the coolest thing there. And then Deion Sanders himself is a famous retired football player and retired professional baseball player.
That's right.
One of the few people that have that distinction, I think, along with Bo Jackson.
Whoa. Nobody is Bo Jackson but Bo Jackson. All right.
That's right.
Yeah, so this one, I got to agree, it's really epic. It reminds me of like the Fox NFL.
Yes.
It's really epic and uplifting, and it really makes me want to get on a football field and play some ball.
Yeah, as it started going, I had the same kind of ba-da-da in my head, and I was like, it's not that.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have gotten that? And then I'm like, wait, this is from '95. My dad used to watch a lot of football.
Yeah.
Is that what I can't remember for the life of me what it was back then? Maybe it was this.
I did research. I tried to figure out if this is something. I want to say that Andy Armour composed this himself in the style of what was on primetime.
Like at the time.
ESPN had their own program, I want to say, on Sunday nights. There is kind of like that epic, like Vikings style music, just like very epic charging music.
Yeah.
And it also kind of makes me think of, for some reason, like comparing it to other Sega Genesis tunes, I think of Gauntlet 4 and I think of Golden Axe, surprisingly, which is kind of shocking. You don't really rank football game music typically alongside the more well-known, like arcadey, like epic soundtracks on the system.
Gauntlet 4 is a good comparison. It's not quite as bass heavy as like the Hitoshi Sakamoto arrangement.
That's like top of the top.
Oh yeah, that's like the creme de la creme. We'll talk a little bit about the GEMS driver. It is a program that is used, that was created so that it is easier to compose music for the Sega Genesis. And it was primarily used by Western composers. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about Andy Armour. Yeah, he started off with NFL 95 in 1994 and just continued working on a lot of sports games. Super RBI Baseball, NBA Action 95 starring David Robinson. Echo Tides of Time in 94, he worked on some of the music with that. Three Dirty Dwarves, the Saturn game in 96, and just again skipping around here, he did some backyard baseball games, re-recording wise, and his last title was a song called Hypnotize on the Get On Da Mike game in 2004.
I have a story about that one.
Do you?
So he didn't write that song Hypnotize, but that's actually Notorious B.I.G.'s song.
Oh, okay. Did he arrange it?
Well, here's what happened. Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs sampled an earlier song called Rise by Herb Alpert, and guess who co-wrote it?
Oh.
Our man.
Interesting.
Andy Armour here, he co-wrote it with Randy Alpert, which was the nephew of Herb Alpert. And the song became a big hit in like 1979 and had a cool riff. And it even got, I think, nominated for a Grammy or won one.
Wow.
And then sometime in the 90s, Sean Combs decided to sample it.
P. Dizzle.
And then P. Diddle.
P. Diddle Dizzle.
Yeah. So he sampled it.
Wait. P. Drizzle.
P. Drizzle.
P. Drizzle. That just sounds all gross.
Wait,
what is wrong with you?
Whoops.
So P. Drizzle sampled Rise, and it became Hypnotize, which is a song that he produced for the amazing, now deceased rapper Notorious B.I.G.
R.I.P. B.I.G.
One of his most popular songs that people know him by.
Sure.
And it's got like this echoing guitar riff in it, which is yeah, and it's straight from Rise, and
wow.
It's just a cool callback.
This is why we brought Aaron on the show.
100%.
Did you know?
Did you know? And this is why my wife hates it. Watch out for the random fact explosion coming.
That's right. She's like, oh, not more VGMs again.
We're trying to eat dinner.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your first official pick. Now, the way we're doing this is, of course, round robin, as we usually do. But we are also going to be picking not just good GEMS tracks, but bad GEMS tracks. And so you're going to start us off with a bad one, in your opinion. What track is this?
Okay, this track is called Main BGM. I don't think it's good enough to have an actual title. So when you look it up, it's just called Main BGM. And it breaks my heart because this game is called Dragon's Fury 2 on the Sega Genesis Mega Drive. And you may know the first game, which has an amazing pedigree. It's part of the Crush series. On the TurboGrafx 16, it's called Devil Crush.
Yes.
And it's, if not the best, one of the best video pinball games, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever it was brought over to the Sega Genesis, it was censored, it was changed to Dragon's Fury, and then I want to say Tengen published it, and so they had the rights to the name Dragon Fury, and so they decided to develop, the American division of Tengen decided to develop an in-house sequel to Devil Crush. You know, no involvement from anyone who worked on the original game. The music itself, it kind of boggles my mind. It feels like one of those things where it's someone just sort of making up music as they go. And the drum loop sounds like it's broken. And it's one of those things where you're like, wait, they got a composer on this, right? Like a real composer. And like I looked him up. It's Earl Vickers. He has an amazing background in working on arcade games and doing sound work and sound design. Back when the lines between doing like sound design and doing sound effects and music were kind of blurred back in the 80s. He kind of did it all, so his credits are kind of all over the place. But he worked on things like Gauntlet and 720 and Paperboy and Zybots, that it's kind of surprising that when he got to the Sega Genesis and got to do some of his own soundtracks, that I think there's a few that are a little better, but I'm just trying to be a little bit nice, but man.
Well, you're spoiling it for everybody.
Yeah, let's save a little analysis for the next break.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right, let's hear it.
That was a journey. That song took us places. Wow. I'm so glad if you're still with us. I hope you are. We promise there are actual good songs coming up too. But where to start? I talked a little bit about it, but if you try to compare the soundtrack to this game, to the first game, it's night and day. The composer for the first game was Toshiaki Sakota. He had like this really cool, almost like Iron Maiden-ish main theme that ran through the game, and it had an awesome guitar solo, and it was just very rocking and kind of gothic. And then when you get to this game, you're just like, what is this? What am I listening to? You know, at first it has hope at the beginning, because you're like, oh, there's like a cool little bass riff thing going.
The bass tone is fat and nice. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. And then it just falls off the rails within seconds. And you've got some of those basic gems, and we'll talk more about the GEMS driver, but I think the main issue here is that it's the most basic sounds from the Gem Driver. There's no tweaks. You hear one note where the sustain sounds like it's broken, and you just hear a note kind of ring out for like 4 or 5 measures. Like for some reason it wasn't silenced.
Yeah, it sounds like a little kid was playing on the keyboard while he was playing the bass line. He was like, stop playing. And the kid was just like, because it's just like upscale, downscale, upscale, downscale. It's not like,
No, there's no chord progression to it.
Right. It's just random
really.
notes like up and down the keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like a lot of the lower stuff was being played through a fart machine. But this is some of the twarmp that we talk about.
Sure. A lot of twarmp discussion on this episode.
There's definitely going to be. I mean, this is one of these episodes that would have been very different had we done it earlier on in XVGM's lifespan. Because when we started, not sure if you know this, but I was very hard on the Genesis for a very long time.
Yes.
And I've since come around. Like I understand that there is good stuff, and like we heard something on the intro. We're going to hear plenty of good stuff later.
Blame it on the gems.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I've learned is a lot of the stuff that I don't like came off of the GEMS driver.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the focus of this episode, why we wanted to do it, is because we wanted to showcase that there is a good side and a bad side to the GEMS driver. A lot of people just trash GEMS. Nope, everything on it is terrible, it's all bad, and that's absolutely not true.
No.
So, a little bit of history about the GEMS driver, since we already kind of covered Earl Vickers as far as his history goes. Like, Aaron did our job for us, so sweet.
True.
GEMS driver was created by one of 2 companies, and I'll kind of explain like my thought process and how I got to this. We got to this because we worked on it together. So it was supposedly created by either Recreational Brainware or Neuromantic Productions. Okay. Now, what I'm thinking is that the GEMS driver was created by Mark Miller and Jonathan Miller and Bert Sloan around 1991. Mark initially had it registered under Neuromantic Productions, but when the 3 shifted over to work for Sega, they created Recreational Brainware, and the credit has gone on to be applied to them over the years. Now, Neuromantic Productions ceased to exist in 1994, so I had a lot of trouble trying to find a dedicated source that would say, this is it, and everybody else is wrong. Because if you look on Sega Retro, it's Recreational Brainware. If you look on VGM PF, it's Neuromantic. I reached out to Mark Miller to try to get some answers on this. Like, I tried, and he wouldn't respond. So, unfortunately, and it's weird because I've had conversations with him before about Earthworm Jim.
Oh, yes.
So that's how we found out that Mark Miller was a ghostwriter for the Earthworm Jim soundtrack. It's credited to him, but supposedly Tommy Tallarico did the whole thing, even though Mark is credited for it. So it's weird. I don't know what the reason was for it. I think I may have asked him, but like he didn't really fully explain it or whatever. But either way, the GEMS driver is an important piece to history because there was not really a proper way to play music on the Genesis easily before the GEMS driver existed. It was all done through programming this ginormous manual that was in Japanese, and so there was no conversion. If there was a conversion for it, like a manual conversion or a translation, it was butchered. And so that's the reason why Western games for so long had, just so many issues with releasing decent music for a lot of early Genesis games, is just because they didn't know how to do it. And so they kind of had to learn by just playing around with it. And so it wasn't until Mark, John, and Bert kind of sat down and said, hey, let's make something that can fix this and make it so that all of us in the US and Canada and Europe can write music for the Genesis that doesn't sound like slop, I guess. So even with GEMS, you did still get the occasional, twarmp. But that's why we're here, to talk about the twarmp and the gems within the gems.
Yep, took the words right out of my mouth.
Boom. I took the words right out of your mouth. So, yeah, that was Dragon's Revenge, also known as Dragon's Fury 2, the 93 Genesis track. And Earl Vickers, you already kind of covered it. Not much else to say. I will say his last game that he's credited
Yes.
for is Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain in 96. So it sounds like he went the way of some of the other composers who worked on Gems or worked with Gems and started working with Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah, it looked like he worked with Kurt Harlan, who I know you'll talk about later.
Yes.
But it seems like they might have worked on a few games together, because I saw, if I looked at it right, I think even Nightmare Circus had a credit for both of them.
Yeah. All right, Justin, let's move on to your pick.
All right, my first pick of today is going to be a game called Comix Zone. Spelled with the X. Comix Zone. This came out on the Genesis in 1995. We're going to listen to the ending theme, and it was composed by Howard Drawson. Welcome back. That was Ending Theme from Comix Zone, the 1995 Genesis game composed by Howard Drawson.
I remember this game and this song and just like really struggling to try to get through it. It's a really difficult game.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. I think I got to the second or third level and was just like, nope, I can't do this anymore.
It's got Battletoads levels of frustrating platforming.
Yeah.
In a few spots.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This song, though, pretty rockin', pretty rollin', pretty rock and rollin'.
Pretty grungy.
Yeah, very grungy. I really like the instrumentation of the guitar, but I also kind of feel like this song like doesn't really go anywhere.
No, it's very short-ish, very repetitive. But I kind of in a almost trance-like way, not trance the music, but trance like the you just listening to
Puts
it
you in a
and
trance.
vibing
Like
out. Yeah.
Transcendental meditation.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just zens out to this song and just puts it on and just om.
Yeah, because I mean
Let's get surrounded by the gems.
Yeah.
exactly. But the loop itself, I mean, it's not so short that it's super repetitive and annoying, but it's got a bit of something there. So one of the other things that kind of drew me to this is I like things that remind me of other things that I like, and there's a lot of sounds in this that remind me of the sounds that were used in a lot of the tracks we played in the Toa Plant episode.
Yeah.
So there was just a lot of that there. And
Techie Pocky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know where I was going. And then just the buzziness of it all. I mean, I don't think there's an episode where I don't talk about Buzzy
Bass.
and
Buzz.
this just has Buzz all over it.
Justin Buzzy Bass Schneider. That's your name. Don't wear it out.
Justin Buzzy Bass Gothface Schneider.
Don't freak the funk on a nasty dunk.
That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, so I have very frustrating memories playing this game on Genesis and then also on Virtual Console. I remember playing this a lot on Virtual Console. And just,
yeah.
Because that was back in the day when I was just like, hey, there's Genesis games on a Nintendo console? Sure, I'll download them.
Wild.
Yeah, right. But Howard Drawson's been doing stuff for Sega for a long time.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah, since Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball in 1993, actually.
Yeah, he was actually the guy who came in and cleaned up Sonic 3 post Michael Jackson's exit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or his sound team, however you want to figure that one out.
Oh, yeah, for
Right,
sure.
right.
Yeah, Brad Buxer and Sirocco Jones and all those dudes.
Yeah.
But then he went on to do other stuff for Sega.
Yeah, there's Sonic and Knuckles in 1994, The Ooze in 95, Die Hard Arcade in 96. Let's see, pick a couple other ones. Vigilante 8 and Vigilante 8 Second Offense in 98 and 99 respectively. Moving on up out of the Genesis realm, Baldur's Gate 2, a lot of those did music and music editing. Shadows of Om, Throne of Baal, Star Trek Fleet Command, Orion Pirates in 1991 did the music editing, and actually, interesting one, Afro Samurai in 2009.
Oh, he did the score for Splatterhouse.
And
the new one.
Yeah, and the Splatterhouse 2010.
I say new one, not realizing that that's been
12
years. Oh my goodness.
Well, when you don't buy new games, that's the last game you bought.
That's the last Splatterhouse game that I bought. Let's put it that way. And I bought it used several years after it came out. So, yeah, there's that. Oh, boy.
Yeah, but very, very storied history and a lot of really good stuff. Wu-Tang Shaolin Style, 99, did original music and cutscenes.
All right, well, let's get into my first pick. I'm going with a good track as well. So my first good track is X-Men 2: The Clone Wars. This came out on the Genesis in 95. This track is called simply The Clone Wars, and it's by Kurt Harlan Larson. And it's also credited for Neuromantic Productions. More specifically, I think it's Jim Hedges and Mark Miller. Hey, you're back. That was a good song. That was from X-Men 2, The Clone Wars. Came out in the Genesis in 95. That was simply called The Clone Wars, and it's by Kurt Harlan Larson, and it's credited for Neuromantic Productions, Jim Hedges, and Mark Miller.
That was a good song.
That was a good song.
Are you trying to convince yourself or the audience?
Ooh.
No, I'm joking.
I love this song.
It was good. I have some minor complaints, but overall, I thought it was really good. I really liked the super kick and bass.
Yeah.
Like the bass drum was really, I wouldn't call it crisp, but it definitely wasn't twampy. It had a punch to it that I really liked.
This sounded like an Information Society song, and there's good reason for that.
I was just going to get to that, actually.
Kurt Harlan Larson is the singer of
Information Society, and the back and forth owner of the name.
Yes.
It's had to change hands a couple of times
Multiple
because
times,
of some disputes. But one of the things that I was actually going to say is that minus the sound effects, if you take all like the lasers and all the sound effects out of this track, it could absolutely be something that you'd hear in like a goth club or like a dark underground night at a club, which is made all the more apparent because of the Kurt Harlan Information Society connection.
Absolutely, yeah. I really like this track. It's so good. It's worth noting that this plays at the beginning of the game, like after you beat the first level. In Clone Wars, when you start up the game, you immediately are given a random X-Men or X-Woman, and you have to start fighting, like immediately. The game has no title screen initially.
Oh, wow.
It just boots up and, oh, shoot, I gotta start. Which is kind of weird. After you beat the first level, then the title screen plays.
Interesting.
And so this plays during the title screen. I believe that it does not play the full song.
I think it cuts off.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I hate it. I hate it when games do that.
I know.
Especially when it's a good song and you're like, you have to go look up the BGM just to hear the full track.
Yeah, because the
or
whole...
the sound test.
It's short. I remember it being really short. It plays like the dunga, 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 dung. And then like right after that, you hear like this modem screech noise. And then it cuts into Professor X talking to, laying out the plan of what's going to happen in the game. It's a great game. Like, definitely the best X-Men game on the Genesis. 100%.
Also, 60 FPS. It's one of the, I don't know how many games on the system actually run at 60 frames per second. But this is one of them.
It's butter smooth.
Silky smooth, yeah.
Yes.
I want to throw out there, too, on the Information Society angle. The first time I heard that band, and it was that hit song, right? I want to know what you're thinking.
Oh, okay. Because they had a lot of hit songs off that album.
Well, yeah, so that's the main one I know, because it came with the Sega CD.
Oh.
And I want to say that's maybe how he got involved with Sega. But that song, I can't confirm that, but that song was packaged with the Sega CD on a disc called Rock Paintings, which was a CD plus G disc. It was a karaoke disc. First time I'd ever seen karaoke. And Information Society, that song was on there, and it just kind of blew my mind that, you have like these graphics that would pop up, and then you'd be able to sing along with the lyrics. And I want to say Jimi Hendrix was on there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there were some other artists, but that was the first time I remember hearing Information Society. And then later on, when we got a copy of X-Men 2, I remember liking the soundtrack, but I didn't make the connection that it was the same guy until we had things like Wikipedia and databases that showed you who composed what music, or like Zophar.net, that sort of thing.
Yeah, This was the first game that I knew that Kurt worked on. I was definitely a fan of the game first, then later became a fan of Information Society's big album, the self-titled album. Great, phenomenal album if you're into like synth pop, if you're into like Depeche Mode, like that type of stuff. It's really, really good. It's got a lot of hip-hop, kind of like early 80s kind of vibes. As well, a lot of record scratching kind of noises, like a lot of that stuff. Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. So Kurt Harlan Larson, his name was Kurt Harlan. He took his wife's last name, from what I understand, because her last name is Larson. X-Men 2 Clone Wars was his first game. Then he later on did games like Scooby-Doo Mystery, Balls, the Director's Cut, which we talked about not too long ago. Gex, Enter the Gecko. He did a lot of stuff with Crystal Dynamics because that's who he was working for. So he worked on the Legacy of Kain series, doing a couple of those games. He did additional audio for the Death Jr. games, Death Jr. and Death Jr. 2, Root of Evil. He worked on The Godfather Black Hand Edition, Resistance, Burning Skies in 2012. He was the lead audio person there. And then his latest game, he was the sound designer on Ori and the Will of the Wisps in 2020. So he's still out there doing stuff. He's also working his main gig with Information Society. He's back with them, or at least he was last I checked. Neuromantic Productions, I mean, we already kind of touched on. I guess we'll talk about Jim Hedges and Mark Miller. We could save Mark Miller, actually, for the next track.
Oh, yes.
Jim Hedges started off with Tasmania in 92. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you need to mentally hear that theme song
too late.
of the cartoon. It's in your
already
head.
gone. It's already there.
It's already there, right? Come to Tasmania.
Yes.
Come to Tasmania. Me and you. Yeah. Techno Clash in 93. Taz and Escape from Mars for 94. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, the second Cataclysm, which is not the Capcom game. It is the game that Elon Musk worked on as well.
Oh, the Sega CD one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The Rocket Science Productions one. I think he somehow has a credit on Lodestar also.
Yeah. And that also came out on the PC. Then along with this game, today's game that we're talking about right now, Gex, Enter the Gecko. He worked on Mr. Bones, doing the SMPC music. Nightmare Circus as well. That's where we also know him from. His latest game is, I'll just go jump way ahead. His latest game is Circus Games in 2008. And we will talk about Mark Miller in just a little bit. But yeah, I really dig this track. It's good stuff. And the game is awesome too.
I want to call out one thing about the sound, which a lot of Gem soundtracks don't do echo at all.
Yeah.
They're very dry, and what I liked about this was that the lead sound, or that rhythm, is wet. It's got this echo behind it. It gives it more depth, which you don't get in a lot of Gem's music. So I really appreciate that. And then the other main thing is that I like that there's kind of a live feel to it. Like you can imagine Kurt being live in the studio, or like doing a live set where he's queuing up different instruments or different keyboards and different sounds. It has kind of a raw live feel to it to me.
I could see that, yeah, and I can hear that too. It's just a very well produced track that not only sounds good but also just feels good. Like, you know, on all levels. And I totally hear that echo too. It's a well done song. Well, it looks like we are getting a phone call, which we didn't expect, because normally we don't get phone calls on episodes like this. So when we have guests, so we apologize, Aaron, for having to take this call, but our listeners want to hear something, so we're going to go ahead and take this call.
XVGM Radio, you're on the air. Who's this, and what can we play for you?
I want to hear a track from Earthworm Jim.
Okay, who is this?
Tommy Tallarico.
Oh, he hung up.
Wow, well, that was unexpected.
Quick. All right, I guess we'll play a track. Do you wanna pick a track from? Because he didn't tell us what song you wanted to play. So do you? He sounds rough, man. Tommy sounded better. I don't know what's going on. He's got that. Sounds like he was doing the vocals for Earthworm Jim too much.
It's a new one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, who knows? Yeah, doubtful. But what song do you want to listen to from Earthworm Jim?
Why not New Junk City, which is, I think, the main tune that most people know from the game.
Yeah, we played this one previously, actually, on a comparison episode that we did for a live, not a live
audience.
show. Yeah, to a live, we did have a live studio audience for our Retro World Expo panel that we did a few years back before the pandemic. We did a panel on Super Nintendo versus Genesis music, and we compared New Junk City, Super NES versus Genesis. So now we'll get a chance to listen to it solo in a non-live format. So this is by Tommy Tallarico, and it's also ghost credited by Mark Miller.
listening to XVGM Radio, where the bits just keep coming.
All right, so you just heard New Junk City from Earthworm Jim, and that is a great track. I think it's one of my favorite tracks. Maybe you've heard it, maybe too much, but it's one of those songs where it's like, in the VGM world, it's probably one of those things where it's like putting on a Sonic or a Mario, where it might get overplayed a bit, but I think in terms of Gems soundtracks, and this song in particular, I think it ranks pretty well up there. It's just, to me, it does a lot of things right. I love the pop of that snare.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that it really cuts through the mix in a way a lot of other drums on GEMS Driver games don't. You know, credit where credit's due. I don't know if that's Tommy. I don't know if that's Mark. But whoever programmed those drums, they're really clean, and they really make you feel those rhythms. And so you're kind of nodding along, and it's very propulsive and kind of pulse pounding. And it does vibe with the style of the level, which is kind of crazy and cartoony and futuristic and kind of grimy and junky, all in the same feel. You've got these pads that kind of mutate and morph, and they're kind of low and grungy. You got this cool little guitar part, and there's like a breakdown where everything else drops out, and it's just the guitar part playing that little riff. And then when the drums kick back in, like that's when it just, I don't know. When I heard this song as a kid, when I'm playing this game, I just had to like let my man Earthworm there just kind of stand there and listen to the tune. And you know, he would start doing these little animations, because Earthworm Jim, when that game came out, it was just, I'll let you guys talk more about the game itself, but and your thoughts. I don't want to hog the show, but Earthworm Jim, just the music and the game, it all kind of worked for me.
Yeah. No, those idle animations, like what you were starting to say, are really fun. That's one of the things that I like about a lot of the games that I remember on Genesis. Felt like they had idle animations. On the NES, not so much. I don't really remember many Nintendo games that had idle animations. Like if you're playing Mario and you just stand there, even in Super Mario World, if you just stand there, he just stands there. But Sonic will tap his foot, he'll look at his watch.
Donkey Kong Country had it.
Did it? Okay.
And all the Donkey Kong Country games had idle animations.
Okay.
Bubsy.
Bubsy. Bubsy. I love this game, and I recognize that the Genesis version is the better definitive version of the game. It is so hard for me to separate my nostalgia, though, from the Super NES version, because I that's the one I grew up on, because I had a Super NES growing up, and I loved the Earthworm Jim on the Super NES, and I especially love this song on that system. And so it's like, even when we talked about this on the comparison episode that we did, it's so difficult to separate that version, because I'm sitting there and I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh man, the drums just sound way better on the Super Nintendo. You know?
Do they though? That's actually something that I was wondering, because
I mean, it's an opinion, but
well, no. I mean, legitimately though, listening to this, the drums were the drums in this sampled, or were the drums in this? They were.
Yeah.
Okay, because I feel like I could hear the compression, and I
sampled on both.
Well, they're definitely sampled on the SNES, because that's your only option.
Sure. Yeah.
But on the Genesis, you've got the FM synth and everything else, and I know that you can play samples, but I wasn't sure. Like my main reason for the question is I felt like I could hear the compression.
Yeah.
Whenever the drums were going off, and again, it's not necessarily a complaint. It's just one of those like, oh, I wonder if it's this. So.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, for sure.
Tommy Tallarico loved samples. You know that. Global Gladiators.
Yes.
And then Earthworm Jim.
Yep.
That's a callback for Mike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Virgin Games did really great animation. Like, their animation department was top notch. I mean, they worked on Aladdin, they worked on Lion King, like all those Disney games that had really stellar animations, and they prided themselves on that. Like, that was their bread and butter. So when they came to work with Earthworm Jim and taking Doug TenNapel's creation and kind of, you know, rolling it into this game, it was very much like, how could we get the animation to be incredible on this? And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, graphically, gameplay wise, I mean, I will say, like, a lot of people nowadays kind of poo-poo a little bit on Earthworm Jim. Yeah, like retroactively, but like it's still a fun game. It's still a lot of fun. I'd say maybe like the hit detection. There's some problems with the hit detection, but I don't know. It's still a good game in my opinion.
Sometimes you have, sometimes it's hard to tell what's a platform and what's not.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so well drawn and every level is completely different that it does have that issue that sometimes games that are like very ornate in their design, sometimes it is tricky to know what's what. But I feel like the game gets away just on charm alone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mark Miller, he has, aside from working with recreational brainware and Neuromantic, so he started off doing music direction on ToeJam and Earl, and then followed it up with Spider-Man that same year, Tasmania, Sewer Shark, Shakan, the Forever Man, or Chaka Khan, the Forever Woman. I don't know.
I found out it's Shakan.
Oh, it is Shakan?
The original creator. Yes.
Okay. I always thought it was Shakan. Was it
Chicken?
Chicken? Chicken? Shakan.
Shao Kahn.
Shao Kahn.
No.
Yeah, Shao Kahn.
Yeah. Interesting. Pink Goes to Hollywood in 93. Daffy Duck the Marvin Missions in 93. I mean, he's just been kicking it. Working on tons of stuff. His final game he's credited for is Earthworm Jim HD. Just credited for the original music. But before that, in 2000, he was credited for Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour. So at some point in time, he joined the Crystal Dynamics team because he worked on stuff like Pandemonium 1 and 2, Blazing Dragons, Gex Enter the Gecko. He worked a lot with John Baker, quite a bit. So that's about it for him as far as that goes. I've talked to him a couple times via Facebook. Seems like a nice guy. So, yeah. Would love to have him on the show if you're listening, Mark. Tommy Tallarico, where to start?
1992, Prince of Persia.
Yeah, that's a good place.
or Out of This World, also 1992.
Yes, thank you.
He converted that. I think he did some Sega CD music.
Yeah. I don't want to, say that somebody doesn't deserve credit when they don't, but he does deserve. He totally deserves credit for bringing VGM into the mainstream, in my opinion. The work that he was doing all throughout the 90s with Virgin Games is great stuff. It's all really fantastic stuff. But he was one of the first well-known American composers in VGM.
That's fair.
And he really kind of brought VGM to the forefront. I mean, everybody knew video game music from games like Capcom and, Konami and all that stuff. Sure. But in terms of an American composer, there weren't many. People didn't know that people like David Wise.
Mark Van Heck?
Yeah, Mark Van Heck, yeah. I mean, the legend Mark Van Heck. Yes. That's an old school joke from the Unreleased Gems episode.
Oh, man.
Oh, good times. Yeah, no, his list is too great to tackle. I will pick 3 random games. Pac-Man World Anniversary, or World 20th Anniversary in 99. Color a Dinosaur in 93. Not good. And then let's go Apocalypse in 98. Did the movie scoring and sound effects for that.
Can't believe you straight up ignored 2008's hit Defendin' the Penguin.
Defending the Penguin, yes.
And both of you missed out on the low-hanging fruit, which is Roblox.
Right.
Oh.
He made that sound effect for the game Messiah. And then somewhere along the way, the creators of Roblox borrowed his sound effect without his permission, and they had to retroactively give him credit.
Yeah.
And then they put in a Tommy Tallarico sound library that people could use.
Right.
So he's credited on Roblox. And Metroid Prime, I hear rumors that he did some sort of work on the game.
He did. I had to interview him for an article that I was writing way back when I was interning at a alternate newspaper. It was the first time that Video Games Live was coming to Connecticut. So I got in touch with him, and he was super nice. And after the article was all said and done and everything, we were advertising, basically it was like, hey, come to this show. This show's going to be, this date or whatever. Got tickets for the show, and I got to meet him backstage and everything. And I brought my copy of Metroid Prime, and he signed it, and he wrote, "Where's Tommy's credit?" on the box. I still have it to this day. So yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, supposedly he worked on the game before it was like, you know, he knew it was going to be Metroid and all that, but like apparently it just wasn't meant to be. And supposedly some of his sound effects are still in the game, but he doesn't have.
What if it's just his voice? That would be great.
Just the Roblox voice. Yeah. That'd be amazing. Let's go from one worm to another.
Nice.
Ooh.
Nice segue.
Segue, yes.
Yeah.
Segway.
I was riding a Segway while I said it too.
Oh, nice.
Boom.
All right, this is going to be my bad pick. This is Richard Scarry's Busy Town, a cartoon I loved as a young boy growing up. Not so much this game.
This was on when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, so
In the 1960s?
Yeah. What?
What? No. Was it really from
No,
that?
it's 1990s.
I was going to say.
When I was a lad,
Yeah,
growing up with...
Like 94 to 96.
but there were books. That's there were
Oh, right, yeah.
books from long back in the day.
Okay.
And then there was the show. Apparently the show was on when I was 10, so
Okay.
who knows. Anyway, the game is Richard Scarry's Busy Town. The year is 1994. The system is the Genesis. This is going to be Captain Salty. Just gonna let that hang there for a second.
Just let it hangle in the water.
Oh, boy.
And it was composed by Andras Magyari. Welcome back. That was Richard Scarry's Busy Town, the 1994 Genesis game. The track was called Captain Salty, and it was composed by Andras Magyari.
Captain Salty.
Oh, man.
I'll tell you what, I felt pretty salty after listening to this. I'm like, who let a toddler play with a music program?
This is amazing.
Is there even a time signature?
How did you put this in
I
bad?
swear. Well, yeah, I know. I was like, I was smiling the whole time.
Right?
I mean, so was I, but not because it was a good song by any stretch of the
This is
imagination.
incredible.
What you're saying is that a toddler ghost wrote this song and the earlier bad song that I showcased.
Why is it a ghost?
Ghost Baby.
Ghost
Baby wrote it.
Ghost
Ghost Baby. Baby.
Richard Scarry's Ghost Town.
Yeah, that's pretty Richard Scarry if you ask me.
Sorry, Captain Salty is so funny.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
I'm trying not to laugh about it, but I keep reading the words, and I don't want to. But every time I look at the sheet, it's there. Oh, this was a salty track for sure.
Yes.
It's just like,
Very meme-worthy.
well, like you mentioned it during the break when we were listening to it, you're like, he knew that there were more than 3 channels, right? Like,
The Sega Genesis can do like 13 channels, guys.
yeah. I think he just wanted to keep it simple. I mean, it's a kid's game, you know? He probably didn't
that's
want to,
fair.
you know?
There
It's like,
are a lot of vocal samples in that game, too.
oh, are there?
Yeah, it's like there's a whole narration track.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh, now use your mouse to click on this.
Oh, right.
And then like every new scene has like a vocal thing playing. So I get that, but come on, man. You could have used like 2 or 3 more.
So this does use the mouse, the Genesis mouse.
It does. It will support it.
I have a Genesis mouse. I should try it out.
Oh, wow.
That and like Art Alive and Sonic Wacky Worlds. Those are your...
Oh, yeah, Sonic Wacky Worlds. Oh, I need to pick that up. Why not, right? It's a really kind of chill track. I mean, like, in all seriousness.
In all seriousness, yes, it is chill, but my main problems are not that every song I want to just be able to dance to, but like this one, I feel like there's either a lack of a time signature or a lack of the ability to stick to a time signature. There's a lot. It feels like there's a lot of like starting and stopping if you're going to be dancing. And
you mentioned free jazz.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Ornette Coleman, what up?
All I hear when I think of free jazz is the scene from Spinal Tap. I told them a million times, put Spinal Tap above Puppet Show, like that. That's that scene. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it fits with the game, though. I mean, like, those memes that you see all the time from people online about VGM, where it's like, all right, this is just a little kid's game where like you're just jumping around playing as a bunch of monkeys. It's not a big deal. And then it's like a picture of a dude with a keyboard on fire.
Yeah.
And it's like, David Wise creating aquatic ambiance, like that sort of thing. So it's like, I feel like not all songs have to be like that. There has to be some chill free jazz tracks called Captain Salty. Like, there just has to be room for that on the Genesis.
There are plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty on the Gems Driver.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I wouldn't put this in the bad category.
It's kind of mixed for me. As a composer, I'm kind of like, yeah, you could have used more than one channel.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
But, I mean, compositionally, I think the hardest part is there's some sort of issue with some of these soundtracks where I imagine that it sounded okay when it was a MIDI, and then when they brought it over, because they used some other piece of software typically to compose it, and then they would bring that MIDI file and you could import it into Gems, and sometimes the timing would get a little wonky.
Oh,
so
that could be it.
Yeah, so you'd notice that like sometimes the beat sounds like it skips a little bit or it's a little off, and I've noticed that in so many Gems soundtracks where it just sounds kind of like a keyboard skipping. I'm like, oh, maybe there was some bug in Gems, or there's something when they're transferring the MIDI over, or if they didn't manually go in and tweak those notes, somehow they got off a little bit.
That makes sense.
I wonder if that's kind of what happened with the drums in that Dragon's Fury track.
Oh, possibly.
So Andres Magyari started out in 1991 doing California Games. I don't even know who that's for, what that's by. Yeah, it was on a bunch of things. U.S. Gold Limited. He's credited as Zenezerzo. I don't know what that means.
Okay, then.
So it's in the audio category, though. The first music-based thing I see here, music and sound engineer on Peter Pan, a story painting adventure in 1993, music on Museum Madness in 94, The Fantastic Adventures of Dizzy, also in 94, Echo the Tides of Time, and just a few others actually from there. Around the World in 80 Days, Star Trek DS9, Crossroads of Time, Three Dirty Dwarves, and then finally 96, Contra Legacy of War, music and sound effects.
Okay, then.
PlayStation.
Oh, yeah.
And Sega
We've got some crossover going on here. A few of these composers, I keep hearing these games come up. I'm like, oh, wait, this other guy worked on that too.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into another good song. This one's mine. It's from ToeJam Earl. This came out in the Genesis in 91. The track is Rapmaster Rocket Racket, and it's by John Baker and Mark Miller, who did direction. You're back. That was a jam.
And Earl.
That was the Sega Genesis game that came out in 1991. That was Rap Master Rocket Racket Rickety Rap-tastic. John Baker and Mark Miller, who did direction on that one. Great stuff. So this was obviously, this came before Gems, but it was clearly like they were working together on Gems, and they were like, yo, here, I made this thing, or I'm making this thing for you. Try to make music with it. And John was like, cool. And he did it.
He was like a legit composer who worked on music before this, right?
Yeah, so he was like a musician. So if you want to know more about John Baker, it was the final interview that we did on Pixel Tunes Radio. I think it was me and my buddy Brian. But John Baker did the composition on this, obviously like very funky fresh, which continued throughout the remainder of the ToeJam Earl games. So John Baker's been doing stuff for a long time on the Sega Genesis. There's even a remix album of this, like a re-recorded funky fresh album with all live instrumentation, and I have it like digitally.
This and Comix Zone are kind of, for me, they're two sides of a coin where I can name specific influences, like actual bands and artists that I can clearly hear influencing the composer. Because here, I feel like it's Herbie Hancock, Watermelon Man era.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like Stanley Clarke and Marcus Miller, and like in Weather Report, kind of like in
that jazz fusion,
jazz
right?
Funk, and some, Parliament and George
Clinton, yep.
Yeah, that's what I hear, and just like so much soul, so much feeling that you don't normally hear in video game music. It has a very unique place. I mean, the game's very unique in itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's great that there's a soundtrack that fits the kind of crazy feeling of playing the game.
Well, you're playing as two aliens. ToeJam is this red guy who is wearing like a gold chain necklace. Really kind of reminds me of Flava Flav.
Oh, yeah.
From Public Enemy. And then Earl is the Big Earl, wears like these polka dot pants, and he has high tops on. They both have high tops on, except ToeJam is 3-legged and Earl is 2-legged. I guess the best way to explain it is Earl looks like a slug with sunglasses on.
That makes sense. He also reminds me of King Hippo a little bit.
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And ToeJam has a backwards baseball cap.
Yep. Yeah,
Yes,
really rocking
very
that.
Much early 90s hip hop.
Absolutely. Yeah, that old school awesome hip hop. So, yeah, actually John Baker said that he was inspired by Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters, so you were right on with that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, anyways, these aliens land on Earth, and they've got to find all the spacecraft wreckage so that way they can put their ship back together and go back to Funkotron, which is their home planet.
Yep.
But yeah, this game, you're walking around this large environment, going all around place to place, using like elevators and stuff to try to get where you need to go. So this one is very much not like the second game. I personally prefer the second game, which is more of a side-scrolling action platformer.
Oh, yeah.
This is more like find your way.
A rogue. Now they call it a roguelite. Back in the day, they really didn't have a name for it, but it has those elements of the originator, which is Rogue, and that it has randomized levels. It has random items that you have to go identify.
Right.
It has different dungeon levels in quotations, but it does have kind of a permadeath thing going on, just like the original Rogue. But it stands head and shoulders above a lot of other games just in terms of uniqueness, because it's also a co-op game, which you can't really name many games around that time in this style, especially where you got to play with another player. And I know both games let you do that.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So it's pretty cool. I've always liked the franchise in general. I'm not a super fan of it, but like it's got some really phenomenal music from John. Just to touch on John's history real quick, he started off doing this game and then followed up with the Menacer 6 game cartridge stuff for the Menacer, which was like Sega's answer to Super
I'll
Stewart.
say ToeJam are in that game.
That makes sense. He did the sequel, ToeJam and Earl in Panic on Funkotron. We just talked about Wacky World's creative studio. He did that as well. I'm going to jump ahead. He started working on the Gex games like Enter the Gecko and Deep Cover Gecko, where he's credited for music and sound composition. And then did Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour, which we talked about earlier, before jumping onto some baseball stuff, some Army Men stuff. He actually worked on Legacy of Kain Defiance as well. So he was, again, one of the composers that was working with like Kurt Harland. A lot of these guys left and went on to work for Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
His final game, he started working on the Sims games, and he's been doing that, like voice editing for those games. So in terms of his last credit, it would be the Sims 2 Ultimate Collection 2014. But in terms of composition, I guess maybe Army Men Sarge's War in 2004. He's credited for sound, but it could be not the case. Music credit is Warriors of Might and Magic in 2001. So, yeah. And Mark Miller, we already talked about. So we're good to go to move on to the next pick.
Final round.
Yeah. So, Aaron, what do you got for us?
Final game. This is a song from Demolition Man. It's by Nathan Griggs. This song is called Pipe Maze. Let's go hear it.
All right.
All right, welcome back. That was the eerie, moody pipe maze from Demolition Man. I almost felt like this could have been in a horror game. It was very dark and mysterious. Not every Gems composer does this, but it seems like Nathan Griggs programmed his own sounds, because I hear things like pinch harmonics. I hear the sounds of the water dripping.
Yeah.
And I love how it bounces between the left and right side. There's a really good use of stereo in this track.
Yeah, tons
and
of stereo
like the overall, I think of the band that came to mind the most of all to me in that moment was Alice in Chains.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I could just kind of hear Jerry Cantrell in that guitar part, that opening riff. But I just like the way the song kind of evolves and shifts and moves, and that bass solo, and then there's like a guitar solo later on. There's so many unique little twists and turns in this song that it's really surprising for a movie tie-in game that's not done by Tim Fallon or someone.
Or like anybody by Ocean. From like,
Waterworld. There you
right, Waterworld, yep.
Drop.
Yeah.
So it was really surprising. And then during the break, I know, Mike, you were looking at gameplay footage of the game, and you're like, wow, this actually looks pretty good. So,
yeah. Game looks cool. I mean, so the Super NES and Genesis game are very similar, but the colors are a little bit brighter and more vibrant on the Super NES. But the Genesis version is like a kind of a dark game, like dark, dreary action platformer. And then the 3DO version is wacky. It's like
it's a point and click adventure.
It's got like multiple stuff, like driving. There's driving sections. They did this a lot with these CD games where they're like, let's just throw anything to the wall and see what sticks. They did it with a lot of like the Batman games on the Sega CD, Jurassic Park. So it's like wacky. Anything that had a license, basically, they were like, all right, let's just do whatever we want with it. So like first-person modes, driving modes. There's a light gun game kind of style mode in it, and then you've got
sounds like proto Die Hard trilogy almost.
Yeah, that's true. And then you've got like these cutscenes that are very clearly Sylvester Stallone running in front of a green screen. Like 100% this was filmed outside of the movie. And it's just like very obviously Sylvester Stallone acting in front of a green screen.
Interesting.
Like painfully pretending like I'm running, but I'm not really. So that sort of thing. So. But yeah, the Genesis game looks really cool. I'm going to have to pick this up. I love that panning. Yeah. The panning immediately got me. As soon as I heard that panning, I was like, sick, I'm in. That was really, really cool. Very impressed.
Yeah, you're a sucker for cool stereo effects, and so am I.
Jerry, I like a good pan.
Yeah.
I like a good pan.
I thought all of the instruments in this actually sounded really good. Like the bass kick, I thought was really solid. The other instruments were either sharp or clear. I knew what they were doing, and I really enjoyed it. Like, as was said, it was very atmospherical, a little bit different than some of the other stuff that we've heard on this episode. Yeah. But I definitely agree that this is in the good category.
Nathan Griggs been doing this for a long time, starting off as Sylvester and Tweety and Cagey Capers in 94. And then he worked on the Operative games, like Operative No One Lives Forever, which came out in 2000, as well as the sequel No One Lives Forever 2, A Spy in Harm's Way, which came out in 2002. He did a bunch of the Fear games, Fear 1, Fear 2, and Fear 3. Yeah,
and you were mentioning earlier, Aaron, about how it sounded kind of like a horror game, and I was going to make mention of it. I was like, we'll get to Nathan. The Fear series is all horror first-person shooter, as well as Alien vs. Predator 2 in 2001. He did the music on that, and there's a number of things that kind of line up with all that.
Yeah. His final game was Mortal Kombat 11, which came out in 2019, where he's credited as advanced composer, so he's still in it today. Yeah. Well, it looks like we are getting a phone call from our Patreon hotline, which means we got a Patreon pick. So let's go ahead and take that call. Janine, go ahead and forward it over.
XVGM Radio, you are on the air. Who is this, and what can we play for you?
What's going on, Mike and Justin? For your consideration as part of this GEMS Sound Driver episode, I present to you from the Genesis, the Jurassic Park Rampage Edition. I had this game and its predecessor game and the Sega CD Jurassic Park game. Growing up, obviously a huge Jurassic Park fan, still am. However, wow, there is a ton going on in this track, almost rampaging all over my ear holes. However, at the end, I would consider it, unfortunately, a bad GEMS Driver track. What's up with the dinosaur sounds peppered throughout? Anyway, Take a listen. Look forward to your thoughts.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and hear Avery
Thanks.
on the Jurassic Park Rampage edition. This is a 94 Genesis game, and it was composed by Sam Powell.
Wow. Well, hey, you're back, and I'm glad that you stuck around, because that was Jurassic Park Rampage Edition. It came out in the Genesis in 1994. The track was Aviary, and it was composed by Sam Powell.
Sam.
Wow.
Sam.
Whose dog did you record and stick in at various octaves.
See, they could have made this work. Like, the thing that pops immediately in my mind is Killer Instinct 2, Maya's theme. There's a bunch of monkey sounds and elephants and stuff like that. Like, they added, like, so many layers and made it fit with the music. It became its own, like, percussive instrumentation. And this, like, those squawking dinosaurs randomly throughout the entire song killed the track for me.
Yep.
Like, every time I found myself being like, all right, this isn't so bad, a dinosaur would like in my ear. I'm like, dude, chill out with that. So that ruined the song for me. Like, I really was trying to give this one a fair shot, but this is probably one of the worst examples of like PCM samples in a Genesis game I've ever heard.
Oh, very, very much so. Yeah, no, I mean, good pick, Scott, even though it was bad. Good bad pick.
Yeah, gave us a lot to talk about, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was humming along with that bluesy section at the end. And that's how I knew it was Sam Powell, because I was like, oh, wait, he's the Shadowrun composer.
Yep.
Like, I could pick out his style.
It's got a good bob to it.
It does.
Yeah, like, it's got a good beat, a good bass line.
There's just some questionable choices, like the squawks, the random cowbell.
Right, yeah.
There's a few things in there that I was just like, why?
And the twarp of that. Yeah.
I was like, it's like the branch of the 1990s.
Yeah.
You hear it in every soundtrack now. It's like the 1990s.
Anytime an alien lands on Earth or whatever in any modern movie, you're talking about that. Where it's like, the horn.
That was the 1990s version.
It was Inception. Yeah.
I think we should just go and take those trailers and just replace it with like the Genesis.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. You get the sound, and we'll get the videos, and we'll combine them.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyways, Jurassic Park Rampage Edition, I think this one's actually supposed to be pretty good. I know at least on the Super Nintendo it's supposed to be pretty good. It's like a
different game.
It's like a running game.
Different game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rampage Edition is Genesis only.
Oh, okay.
This is almost like
that's
it's a
right.
sequel to Jurassic Park on the Sega Genesis. It was still Blue Sky Software who went on to make Vector Man. The first game was very dark and very short. This game is longer and a lot brighter. But man, it's fun. We covered it on Genesis Gems, but it's a hard game. And yeah, those dinosaur sounds are really.
I was confusing it with Chaos Continues, which is the sequel on the Super NES, which is actually a really fun run and gun.
Yes, and it also had some good music.
Yeah.
And there are 3 Jurassic Park games on Sega Genesis. It's weird because it's like you got Jurassic Park, then the sequel, which is this game, which almost feels more like DLC.
Yeah.
And then Lost World came out, and it was like one of the last games on the Sega Genesis.
Oh, right. Yeah, and there was also a Sega CD game. That's the one I remember the most.
Where you go find eggs?
Yeah, and it's just like this on-rails roller coaster type, full motion video fest.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got nothing else to say about this one. That's rough. It's rough and tumbles.
It's a game.
It is.
It is a game.
Tell me about Sam Powell.
So yeah, Sam has a very long list and a very storied history here. Started out doing music way back in 1987 with a game called Quarterback, and then was uncredited in John Elway's Quarterback, also 1997, for Team Select Music. But there's a lot of stuff here, so we'll just pick a few things from this list. Sound and music in RoboCop versus the Terminator, 1993.
That's the Super NES version.
Yep.
Because Tommy Tallarico did the Genesis version.
Right. The Genesis Jurassic Park game that we were just talking about in 1993, did sound and music on that, and then followed it up with this one. And we see Vector Man 2 in 96. They have sound effects. The Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire in 96. They did music on that one.
Which I don't think came out.
That was released in 96.
Oh, right.
32X.
That's one of the last 32X games that came out. Yeah, and it's like stupid expensive.
Super expensive, yeah.
Did sound and music on EverQuest, The Scars of Velius in 2000. And their most recent credit is for Shadowrun Dragonfall in 2014.
Oh, okay. Neat.
Ooh, that's a callback.
Yeah.
They wanted to bring back one of the OG Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, we're going to end this one with my final pick. This is bad. This is my bad pick. It is Sylvester and Tweety KG Capers, which is the Genesis 94 track. The track's called Hide and Shriek, and it's by Nathan Grigg. Oh, I feel like I just slipped on a banana peel. That was a bad track. Sylvester and Tweety, KG Capers, the 1994 Genesis game. That was Hide and Shriek. Hyde is Hyde, by the way. And that's by Nathan Grigg, who we talked about a little earlier, so we could save a little time and avoid that. But yeah, I guess my big thing with this, so I'll start with good. So I really love the multifaceted layers of this track. I mean, it is, aside from the Demolition Man, I'd say, probably the most like diverse song we've heard on this episode in terms of the layers. And I love how the song stacks those layers on top of one another. It probably is, I would say, a really good representation of what a Looney Tunes song would sound like if it was recorded by Sylvester while he's getting strangled by, I don't know, the dog or whatever. That dog that always beats him up. Ralph, yeah. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
You and I were struggling to place one of the quote-unquote instruments earlier. You were describing kind of like suction cups. I was thinking of it more as like a puttering car.
Oh, yeah. It was like, it was like in the background. You could hear this like
right in the beginning. Or like a cloud machine or like bubbles or something.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you were saying as far as like the layers and stuff goes. Overall, like I don't really like the way that it was executed.
It was abrasive.
It was a bit abrasive.
Yeah.
It reminded me of some of the music in the SNES game Duck Dodgers: The Marvin Missions.
Oh, yeah.
I played the underwater track from that game on the SNES Deep Cuts episode on Pixel Tunes,
right?
And that was another weird esoteric song.
I remember when you played that, and I was like, "Is this gonna work out?"
No, you and Nico had fun of that one because you were like, "Man, we asked for deep cuts, and you brought deep cuts."
That is true.
It was like
that is true.
It's a weird song.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'm split on this song. I definitely feel those good points that Mike talked about, just the stacking of layers. And from a compositional standpoint, it's very sophisticated. You could tell that Nathan Griggs, definitely has like a studied composer background where he can compose all sorts of different types of music. I think this is one of his early soundtracks where he could really develop the patches better. I think what gets me is that some of the patches do sound abrasive, and then I think, I don't hate this, but there are some games where you're not going to take the song and ever want to listen to it outside of the game.
Right.
I'm sure this song works in the context of the game. But even that said, I can think of a few like Mickey Mouse games where the soundtrack still works outside of the game. And that would be like some stuff from Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mania, and from Castle of Illusion, especially.
Yeah. Magical Quest, like those types of Mickey games where it's like, it works.
Those top composers, and it's not that Nathan Briggs is a bad composer. We've already shown that he's a great composer, and he's got the skill. But I do get the abrasive feel, and I think it's one of those things where it's like it's very soundtracky.
Yeah.
It's very background.
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it's very Looney Tunes. It's going to kind of color the scene, but it's not going to call too much attention to itself.
I wonder if there's like a dun 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 song in the soundtrack. I'll have to dive deeper and see if I can find one. I heard this and was just like, wow. Parts of it are really impressive, and then other parts of it I'm like, what? Like, why? So, I don't know. That's my pick. I haven't played the game. I don't know much about it.
It's a decent platformer, but there are so many platformers like Sylvester and Tweety on Sega Genesis especially that it gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of those licensed cartoony platformers.
For sure,
that it's hard for me to tell one from another. There's just not too many that stand out.
Yeah. All right, well, now we are at the end of our show, and this is the part of the episode where we pick our favorite tracks. We're going to throw you for a loop, though. We're going to pick our favorite track and our least favorite track of the night. So we're going to let our guests go first. Aaron, what's your favorite and least favorite?
My favorite track is probably that ToeJam Earl track, and maybe it's just because I have a ton of nostalgia for that game. But that's the one where it's just got this funk groove I love. I can bop along to it. That one, for some reason, is one that always gets me. There were some other close seconds, but that's my top.
Cool. And your least favorite?
My least favorite would be my pick from Dragon Fury 2. Awful pinball game, awful soundtrack. It's a match made in hell. Go burn and die forever.
Right.
It's just it's not great.
Justin?
I think my favorite track is actually that Demolition Man track. That was surprising, I will say, and just very very atmospheric, very very good. Just overall, never heard it, so good pick there. Least favorite, Scott, your Jurassic Park Rampage edition wins the fail for me.
Oh man,
love it.
All right, favorite track for me. Ooh, this is tough because there's some really good stuff in here. I almost went with Demolition Man, but I think the nostalgia won me over a little bit more with the X-Men 2 Clone Wars track.
I had a feeling you were going to go with that one.
I love that Information Society jam. It is so good. But Demolition Man is a close second, for sure. Really impressed by that, especially since I hadn't heard it before. Worst? I'm surprised nobody said Captain Salty. I don't even know if I can't go with Captain Salty.
I was going to say, y'all were talking it up.
Yeah.
I had too much of a tune. I could actually hum part of that.
I'm going to go with the Jurassic Park track, too. Yeah. It's awful. It's just, man, that's rough, man.
You could tell Sam hated himself while he was composing.
I just don't understand why they wouldn't have made the dinosaur sounds like sound effects that happen in the game instead of actually parts of the music.
Like, I could literally
what a weird
make
decision.
A better song with those dinosaur songs, like, right now. Like, just take the beat to X-Men 2 Clone Wars to do, and then just, like, throw in a rah, rah, rah. See? Right there. Boom. Just have that dinosaur see, now that's what they should have done.
At least it would have been funny.
Yeah.
I would have bought it.
Oh, for sure. Well, we want to thank Aaron Hickman, aka DYA, for coming on the show and joining us and talking up the Genesis, the GEMS Driver, exploring the best and worst of it. Thanks so much for being on the show. Go ahead and plug away. What do you got coming out? What do you want to promote?
Sure.
Let us know.
All right, so Sega Genesis wise, I was just on a album of various Sega Genesis songs that was released on a cartridge that you can buy over on catskullrecords.com.
Nice.
It's called YM 2020, and it's very cool. It's like a visual album. There's like a neat little cover for each song that kind of depicts what's going on in the song. and you got like a little sound test, and it's pretty cool. You can check it out on YouTube if you don't know if it's something you'd want to get or it's too expensive. So worth checking out. My track is called Maiden Voyage on there. Not the Herbie Hancock song, I swear. The original composition that I made. And otherwise, I just finished that Commodore 64 soundtrack, Ninja Carnage. The album is out on my Bandcamp, which I'm sure we'll link to. Then otherwise, I'm on the Genesis Gems podcast. We're about to put out an episode on Phantasy Star 2, which has a soundtrack I love. Mm-hmm. So not on the Gems Driver, but I hope you guys check that out, and be sure to check out our backlog. We've covered tons of horrible and amazing Sega Genesis games. That's me. And of course, I'll be in the XVGM Discord if you ever want to chat.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much for being on the show again. We loved having you, and I'm sure we'll have you back on. We won't wait another 80-something episodes. We'll have you on soon.
Yes, it was a lot of fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
No problem.
So, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Alex Messenger, Cam Worma, Chris Hart, Jordan and Anson Davis, Rage Cage, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Chris Myers, The Autistic Gamer 89, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Llama Adam, Marcus Stewart, Nathan Cooper, Nick Davis, and Ryan McPherson.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you like what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at www.facebook.com/groups/XVGM Radio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both those sites is @XVGM Radio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links in the show notes. So in 1 month, Justin, what are we coming back with for episode 90?
So we are going to come back with some nostalgic theme songs. I believe this was an idea that I had a while back, where I want to kind of take songs that exist outside of the video game world, for an example, like the Tiny Toon Adventure theme song,
yes,
and compare the theme song as it is in the game to the original. And I don't think we're going to do this as like our normal comparison episodes. I don't think we're going to play the game track right next to the original.
Well, we won't be able to.
Right, yeah. Right. So it's mostly going to be like a nostalgia run of like, hey, I remember this game and I remember this show or this movie or whatever it was, and here's the theme song in video game form. Obviously, this is going to be more chiptune based, because once you get into Red Book Audio, you can just use the original theme song. So that's cheating.
Yeah,
but yeah. So this will be an interesting walk down memory lane.
If you're familiar with episode 49, where we did licensed properties on 80s movies, it's going to be very similar to that. So another nostalgic throwback. So we hope you'll join us for episode 90, rounding the bend to episode 100.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Exciting. All right, well, this is Mike.
And Justin.
Signing off for XVGM Radio.
XVGM Radio, you're on the air. Who's this and what can we play for you?
Oh, did the cat just jump on your lap? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Damn it.
All right, here we go.
Keep that in.
Yeah.
It'll be one of the
Yeah. All right. Getting salty with the captain.
Yeah.
That's right.
One other Richard Scarry thing that I would mention here is there isn't even a Captain Salty in his busy world. The captain character is Captain Willie, so I'm like, what is Captain Salty?
Oh, that's even worse. Captain Willie's getting salty.
That's right.
Getting salty with Captain Willie. Oh boy. All right, talk about this composer before I make another, innuendo.
Yeah. Didn't Michael Jordan try to do like?
He played in the minor leagues.
That's right. That's right. And golf.
And he played for the minor leagues for the White Sox.
And the Toon Leagues.
Yeah. That's true. He did play for the Toon Leagues. Him and LeBron are the only two who can say that. Yeah.
The Space Jammers right there.
That's right. The Slam Jammers. Another famous basketball player, or not another, but famous.
A
famous basketball player.
Sports ball person,
yes.
He's in San Antonio where I'm at. So
the Spurs.
Yes, he's great.
Yeah.